The frustrating thing about the last 2 weeks in College Park, Maryland, was that Maryland has proved that they have talent to play with anyone in the conference. Unlike years gone by, this is a team who, mano a mano, can match up with just about everybody. But I think we are looking at some underbelly of a youth. Too many mistakes, too many critical stops that they aren't getting, oftentimes being out physicaled in critical moments. I'm looking at a team right now. I don't want to say it's falling apart, but the soft part of the opening of the schedule didn't necessarily open the sores that we're seeing right now. And there is some vulnerability with this team on the edge right now. We saw Dylan Raiola just simply come in on Saturday, and I got to tell you, I was very impressed with him the way he came back. He gives up a pick six, but he also throws a 65-yard touchdown pass, right? And he also gives up a 67-yard, interception. And at that moment, that seemed to flip the momentum in the game for the Terps. Now, here's where, if you ask me, Maryland's immaturity comes in. Now, when the Huskers were going to make a comeback, you knew that. And they responded. Following the pick six, they had a scoring drive, a long one, all right? And after Luke Lidmeyer caught that 7-yard touchdown pass, it was 34-31 with just over a minute left. And in the back and forth tenor of this game, I think it would be safe to say that Maryland did come out of the locker room after taking those blows. And they opened the third quarter with their own 10-play, 75-yard drive, and they tied the game up. So you figure you're at home. And this is the thing that Maryland has to deal with right now. That's an underbelly that they're going to have to figure out how to deal with. There is no 12th man home field advantage in CQ Stadium. I don't know whether because you're dwarfed by teams like the Ravens on the north end of the Parkway or the Commanders on the south end of the Parkway. There's just not enough passion. Nebraska fan took advantage of the extended day holiday weekend. And I got to give big ups because Nebraska fans traveled to the nation's capital area. Now, you got to look at places like Lincoln, Nebraska, or Des Moines, Iowa. Those are places, Champaign, Illinois, if you will, that don't have a pro team. So they rally the troops and travel as they are an NFL team. So if you're in Lincoln, Nebraska, and you're Dylan Raiola, quite frankly, that's equivalent to being Jaden Daniels in D.C., really. And so Nebraska fan with the money on the line knew the protocols of how to get behind their team and give them some juice. And to me, I got to give their fan base, a true blue college football fan base, giving them an intangible. And even after the game, it was Nebraska players that were coming out because their fan base represented. And I think that that's something that is not germane to what Maryland is bringing out on the field. It's just germane to the fact that just when Maryland had the chance to become a thing in its area, they dropped two straight. Now, next week, they're going to go to UCLA, which is going to present its own set of challenges, quite frankly. First off, it's a long trip. Some would argue that it's actually a good thing for them to be leaving. But Maryland's got some significant holes on the defense. And my thing is, you need your defense to get stops. And when you get those stops, you can't make mistakes. And Maryland kept too many drives going with mental lapses and non-physical mistakes. And until they can stop beating themselves, a season with such promise is slowly but surely going to go into the toilet. Now, again, you can reset the entire season once again with a dub in the Rose Bowl next week. So it wasn't as devastating a loss as the loss to Washington was. And I think that the fans and some of us who cover this team on the beat were kind of shaken after the Washington loss. But then you get to the Nebraska game and you're actually now scratching your head. Now, there are a number of different things that Maryland is definitely going to have to clean up if they want to go out to UCLA, which is a winnable game. We must be mindful of that. The Terps themselves, as Lamont says, are still in contention for a shot at the Big Ten championship game. You know, they've had a coaching change in Southern California at UCLA. Rick Neuhausel's kid is now calling the plays. So there's going to be a whole lot of emotion there. UCLA does have talent and speed. I think if you look at the tail of the tape, they're going to match up pretty well physically. But Maryland's got talent, but they're still growing. And it brings to mind the question about the early season scheduling and not having that tougher schedule. Would Maryland have been better off had they played tougher teams to get ready for the conference schedule? Yeah, instead of going 4-0, but think about it. If you're 2-2 coming out of 4 really tough games and you're battle tested for critical moments, I'm of the opinion that you don't make the mistakes in the second half because you've seen this type of, for lack of a better term, enemy on the other side of the lines. You had physical advantages all through the first month of the season. Wisconsin might have been a ruse. This is a down year. So the last couple of weeks, I'm not going to say that Maryland necessarily got beat. They lost 2 games, and I think you can chalk it up, easy for me to say, to their youth and not really understanding how to handle the pressure of a big game. So I think next weekend is a defining moment in the season. And while there's still a lot to play for, not too many teams make a run at something other than the Mayonnaise Bowl or something like that when you lose 3 in a row during the course of the season, unless you got a reputation like a really high-end contender from, say, the SEC or another level in the Big Ten. So this is a big game with postseason ramifications, and to justify the change in position inside the conference that the Terps seem to think that they have. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. For Maryland Live on the Voice of College Football, I'm Professor G. Mark Gray.